Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be talking a lot of political issues and things that are important to our two wonderful guests that will be joining us, so stay tuned.
Hello, and thank you for joining another episode of 180 Shift. I'm Tara.
And I'm Ellie.
And we have two wonderful guests here, Dylan and Christine. And before we jump into their introduction, it's boba time.
Yes.
Oh, wait, that's already a store. It's Bon boba time. All right.
It's boba time.
So the proper way to boba your boba is to go like that.
That's
because of physics, you know. Anyway, if you didn't do it that way, it's okay. Next time you can try that cooler way.
But I stab it.
Stabbing is bad. Anyway, so we have two wonderful guests. Christine, ladies first. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name is Christine. I am 29 years old from LA County. I'm currently the chair of LA County Young Republicans. This is my first year, so it's been fun and interesting. So thank you so much for having me on today.
Yeah, thank you. Dylan?
My name is Dylan. I'm 21 years old. I am a recent graduate of UC Santa Barbara as of March of this year. So I've been involved a lot with a lot of local political issues in LA and OC, especially in the South Bay where I'm from, born and raised in Torrance. I door knocked for the mayor my senior year of high school, and that's kind of how I got involved with a lot of things. And I currently run a 501c3 nonprofit that focuses on Asian American civic engagement.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Okay. So I think it'll help us just really quickly tell us, both of you, what primarily got you involved in politics? What made you aware of it? Why did you want to get into it?
Yeah, so I never really cared for politics till 2020. Like, I would hear the news here and there, but when the COVID happened and all the lockdowns and then the mandates, that really, you know, as a citizen, like, and, you know, with all our rights, our freedom, it really got me involved because I was not okay. Like, everything was going against our health. The gyms were closed, the churches were closed. So that really, you know, I was not okay with that. So I started getting involved, and then there were protests, so I started going to protests, and then like Hollywood for Freedom event I went to, and then that's how I actually found out about the LA County Young Republicans. So then I started getting more involved, and I'm like, I need to do something about it. I can't just sit back and, you know, just watch our California go down. So
yeah, that's a really good point. What about you, Dylan?
So I've paid attention to politics since I was 12 years old. I was 13 in 2016 when Trump got elected, and I think that's the year where, you know, the entire country changed and everybody started paying attention, and politics sort of became it moved to the forefront of everyone's mind. Paid attention during COVID, paid attention during George Floyd and all that stuff that was going on. And then my senior year of high school, I door knocked for the mayor, right, as I said. Door knocked for George Chen, a great guy. I will always speak very highly of him. Definitely someone who I admire in my community. And then when I went off to college and came back in the summer of 2023, and also that Christmas, there were a lot of things going on when it came to public safety in the South Bay. Because of George Gascon, who was the DA of Los Angeles, and Prop 47 and all this sort of stuff that was going on, Gascon just wasn't prosecuting people. You had retail theft, you had smash and grabs, and quite a few smash and grabs hit Del Amo Fashion Center, or the Del Amo Mall, where that's in Torrance, and that's like the mall in the South Bay, right? It's like one of the largest malls in the U.S. So when that happened, and I just saw the way things were going in L.A., I said, okay, well, I want to do something about this. And I looked at the way things were in Torrance, and I was like, well, the city is 38% Asian, right? It's one of the highest Asian populations anywhere in the United States, but we had only first gotten an Asian mayor in 2022. And I said, okay, well, what if I started a nonprofit that focused on getting kids involved in things like public safety, in supporting small businesses, in doing all these things that I felt like the LA government and the government in Sacramento wasn't really doing, right? Public safety was going down the drain. Businesses were being attacked either by looters or by their own government who was not taking care of them. And that's something that I wanted to change the narrative around, because I feel like the Asian American community is very pro-business, very pro-public safety, things like that. So I just wanted to create a voice for that.
That's wonderful. So we have 2016 and 2020.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Two very pivotal years. I would say.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, 2 very pivotal years.
Yeah, do you think that, I mean, both of these years were such big moments that I think impacted a lot of people that were growing up. Do you think that, you know, you're not Gen Z, you're technically millennial, right? But still seeing, you know, the younger generation, and you are Gen Z, do you think that this has made Gen Z very, like, I don't know, just very political, and I don't know if it's necessarily the best ways, but what do you guys think about that? Like,
How's it affected
how's it
them
affected them?
politically?
You want to start?
yeah, because you're part of the wrong Republican, so what are you saying from that?
Yeah, so I think it has, and not just the younger generation, even mine, I'm like borderline, but I think like after, for me at least, like 2020, I've been seeing like the shift, and you know, there has been so much hate. Like you can't even talk about politics. Like, you can't even disagree. It's like if you disagree, you're a bad person. Like you have to have the same belief as them. So I think it also like Gen Z with dating, right? So now like everyone's like focused, are you Republican, are you Democrat? Like, you know, I don't think that happened before, at least like when I was growing up. I didn't really care. And I also have a little brother. He's not Gen Z, but you know, like he's learning about politics now, and like a lot of people at like 13
How
years
old is
old,
he?
they didn't know about 13.
13. Okay.
They wouldn't talk about politics. So I think, yeah, there's definitely a shift where more people are even getting involved. Like we've been, from like what I learned from Ariana, who's also the chair, she said like after 2020, like they saw a shift. Like more people, more younger people were involved in politics. They wanted to get more involved.
Yeah, that's true.
I think what you kind of see with 2016 is it's not so much this. I mean, it is a changing moment. I think 2016 has sort of changed this country forever, and then 2020 is just 2020 and 2024 are just kind of echoes of what happened in 2016. But I think what 2016 really is it's I would say it's the culmination of 20 to 30 years of American policy, right? Where if you look at Democrats, old school Democrats will praise Bill Clinton, old school Republicans will praise Ronald Reagan, and I would argue that you can make cases that they both were good presidents for the time. Clinton had a budget surplus, Ronald Reagan defeated the Soviet Union, and the 80s were a very successful time period. But at the same time, there was a lot of long-term ramifications that came out of that, right? You have NAFTA with Clinton. Reagan was the one that started free trade. And then their successors are the ones who only exacerbated that, right? George Bush turns the guns on Iraq. And then all of a sudden, I think you have people who grew up in that. And of course, you have the Great Recession in 2008, which is the big one. And I think you have a lot of people who are my generation, Gen Z, that kind of grew up in those shadows of the Great Recession, of the Iraq War, of the War in Terror. And there sort of became this consensus, this underlying consensus after 2008 that the status quo really wasn't working anymore. And that's why I think you've seen this polarization in American politics, where half the generation, everyone likes to say, 4 years ago they were saying Gen Z is the most progressive generation ever, and then now they're saying it's the most conservative generation ever. I think there's truth to both of that, because I think Gen Z is more polarized than any generation before it, along gender lines, along political lines, along all sorts of lines you could imagine. And I think the reason for that is because you had 2008, you had the Iraq War, you had essentially the center establishment, where you look at like the election in 2000, George Bush wasn't all that different from Al Gore, right? And it's like there's very minimal differences in policy. It's like, I think the tax rate should be 20%. I think it should be 15%. And then it's like, okay, where do we meet in the middle? And I think people looked at the center, who that wasn't really doing anything, right? The uniparty, as both sides kind of call it, and they go, well, that really isn't working anymore. And then you had the rise of more extreme versions, or extreme solutions on the right in the form of Donald Trump, and on the left in the form of Bernie Sanders, AOC. And you have half the country, or half the generation, that thinks, the country needs to shift further to the left, and then half the country that thinks the solutions are further to the right. And I think that's why you're kind of seeing this polarization, which has come out of 2016, because people just kind of accept that the status quo is no longer working.
How much do you think that like memes had to do with this involvement with Gen Z and, you know, young millennials in politics?
I think a great deal.
Yes.
Because I think it's been huge, and I think it's sort of. I was making this point today, actually, where everyone, you know, Ben Shapiro likes to say all this about, oh, facts don't care about your feelings, and, you know, he tries to claim that he approaches politics from a very logical perspective. But at the end of the day, the way most people engage in politics, right, your average voter, someone can sit down and, you know, spend hours looking at government studies and all this other sort of stuff. Oh, this statistic, that statistic. Your average voter engages in politics at a very emotional level. The way conservatives get involved in politics, right, before they learn all the facts and, you know, whatever they look into, and they go into government research and things like that. The way all of that gets started is they look at, like, Ben Shapiro destroys compilations, or like Charlie Kirk, you know, owns some liberal on a college campus or something like that.
Or
right?
they look at sob stories of testimonies of like the pain that Chloe Cole experienced, or the, you know, the power of walking away from an abortion.
It always starts with an emotional appeal first, and I think this is a big reason why I think the Republicans have really shot themselves in the foot with this approach. And the reason they won 2024 so decisively is just because, you know, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden didn't really have a vision. But I think...
Or emotions.
Or emotions, yeah. It felt like, I mean, regardless of you want to say Trump played on hope or anger or, you know, whatever you want to say about him, depending on your political perspective, I think Trump at least came in with a much more emotional appeal than the Democrats. And I think that's why 90% of counties in the United States switched to the right.
And even though the media covered it pretty quickly, that shooting where Trump got shot in the head, that was huge.
That is a textbook picture we're going to be talking about for centuries.
But yeah, but right now it's pretty quiet. But that photo of him praying, talk about emotional. What's your opinion on that, Christine?
Yeah, I think social media in general, like, has played a really big role, like, on people getting involved. They're more vocal now. They post their feelings, as we talk, like, emotions. And yeah, like he said too, I agree with that. Like, all they brought was word salads. Yeah. So, like, no vision, like, and people were just tired of it. They also saw, like, everything, like, all the important things, different topics that were happening, and it was affecting everyone's lives. So they were just tired of it. So
absolutely. Yeah. And one more point too is that, you know, we weren't all watching the same shows in 2016, 17, not. 18, 19, 20, but we all did see similar memes. Wouldn't you agree? We all, I mean, whether or not we were on like Instagram or TikTok, the dance trends, everything, like, wouldn't you say that that was something that we shared culturally? Was that meme culture?
Meme culture, yes.
I mean, there's like niches.
The way the way the
Pepe
internet
the Frog
goes,
and like Barbie, but like
no. I mean, but there's the way internet culture has kind of gone, especially in the last 10 years, which is why it feels like culture has kind of stopped. Right, you have the same music artists from 2010, Kanye West, Taylor Swift, etc.
Jay-Z.
Right, people think. People kind of make the claim that culture has really stopped in this country, but I think a bigger issue is the fact that because the internet has allowed for so many different subgroups to arise, all the culture, pop culture, is kind of splintered into all these different groups. So it's, I mean, yeah, all of us are on Instagram, all of us are on TikTok, or at least the majority of Gen Z is, but not all of us have the same For You page, or not all of us see this or see that.
Yeah.
That's why if you talk to somebody who's on the left, they'll go, oh, well, you know, I think this about Trump, and then you talk to somebody on the right and they go, I see this. Like, the For You page is the result of that, because when, let's say you're a more liberal-leaning person, they'll come in, right, the For You page will give you will feed you into the echo chamber, right? They'll give you more liberal-leaning TikToks, and then if you're conservative, it'll be more right-wing TikToks, right? So, I wouldn't make the claim that we're in the same meme culture. I think it's been much more diversified as time goes on.
But wouldn't you agree that there are things that break through? There's like breakthroughs where it's like everyone saw that video.
Oh yeah,
and sure. I can't name one right now, but I know there's one. I know there's one out there because I've come across one.
Well, you could mention the assassination. Like, even if you're the left, it was on the news. It was everywhere. Everyone saw it. And I think, like, we follow other parties. Obviously, we have friends that aren't the same party, and if they post it, you're still gonna see it. So I think you still get to see both sides, even if you like train the algorithm to just show whatever like you want to see. Because I've experienced that too, where I'll like on purpose go watch certain videos, so I only get pushed that kind of content, and then Instagram will be like, nope, you don't like that, I'm gonna show you that.
I'm going to say the opposite, so you can leave some good comments.
Yeah, this is so interesting because right now I'm going through a media literacy class right now, and it talks about a lot about social media currently and how we're all in an echo chamber that most of us go through willingly, right? But I think that is, to our detriment because of the fact that we aren't getting, literate really with the things that we need to, like being active and searching up articles and trying to decipher what's real and what's not. I don't know, how has it been for both of you just trying to figure out what's truth in today's world and trying to navigate that?
You can start, yeah.
That's a hard question, but I think like just following people that they do the research and are actually posting things that are true. Like I don't follow any news on social media. I get like the news from like people I actually trust, like the sources, and then even then, like I'll still try to do my own research and see if like that's something that actually happened. And like with AI too now, like it's really, really hard to tell like what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that that's so interesting because a lot of people get their news today through social media. Yeah.
I think I've sort of accepted at this point that there isn't a real way to tell what is true and what's not, especially with AI, things like that. I think 2016 and all the years that have followed have really done a number on established media sites. They've lost a lot of their credibility, especially in their reporting of COVID, in their reporting of a lot of different things. Whether it's Fox News or CNN, it's becoming more and more apparent that there is bias in a lot of mainstream media. So at this point, it's just, I'll scroll X, I'll scroll Instagram, and then if I hear something that doesn't sound right, I'll be like, is that really true? And then you can look it up on the internet, but the internet isn't always correct either. So a lot of it is word of mouth. A lot of it is just kind of, I don't really even watch the news much anymore because it's just, you can't really discern what is true and what is not.
There's bias everywhere, but the question that I've been wondering is, is obviously there's truth, but how do you figure that out? I don't know if that's more like a gut feeling or an intuition, but that's really hard. I think today that's an issue that our generation is currently having to go through, and I think that's everyone who's active right now. It's really hard.
I think too, though, if you can train yourself to be more sensitive to the bias, because most everything has bias now. Like you can tell within the first 5 minutes if they're left or right.
Everything's been written by a human, so it inherently has bias because human beings are just biased.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if they start talking about like the importance of like taking care of our climate, it's obvious what their political party is already, or like, so I think the bias thing helps us also figure out the truth, because when we like sniff out the bias, we're able to be like, oh, I know what this person is kind of getting at, and then we're able to like discern and like you said, use a gut feeling of what exactly they're trying to say and if it's a part of our truth, right? See, I feel like there's a lot of correct information out there. It's just that there's a lot of people who literally have different moralities. So it's like, I could say that that's like a good thing and someone else could look at it and say, no, that's a terrible thing. So it's not that the news itself is bad or good. It's just that no two people have the same opinion on the event or like the news event, basically.
Yeah, well, I asked this also because I think that a lot of reason why I think our today's generation is so polarized is because of, obviously, we were talking about is what they're currently getting their information and how it's being presented to us. But I want to know for both of you, now both of you are Republican, right? And this, today, since it's so polarized, the generations currently, I think that it's not necessarily unpopular to be Republican, but it kind of is, you know. So why even go towards that? What?
Because
about
it's
the
awesome.
Republican- No, like what about it really? Whoever wants to take it.
It might be long. I'll try to make it a short story.
that's
But
fine.
like I said, like I didn't really follow politics or anything. So when I actually first registered, I was registered as an independent. I was like, I don't like being labeled, so I'm just gonna stick to the middle. Before that too, like with all my peers and stuff, like everyone was a liberal. Like they were all Democrats. So I kind of like was leaning towards there, but then 2020 happened, so I had registered, and then I was like, you know what, for the first time I'm actually going to vote this year. But then I still didn't know who to vote for, so I was like I don't know much about politics, and like the news is just making Trump be like such a bad guy, and then I'm just like, I was really lost. I didn't know who to vote for, so I prayed, and then again, like the algorithm had no like politics. I prayed, and then the next day on TikTok, I see a video of Trump, and he was like giving his money. You guys have probably seen that video. Like he's in church and he pulls out his own money to give like to the church. And I was like, I think that's like my answered prayer. I know who I'm voting for, and I voted for him. And then I get a letter, like those little cards, that my vote wasn't counted because my address didn't match. So then, like, I think that was like God kind of working to wake me up to see like what's really happening in like the political world, and kind of like that's how to get me involved. Because when the Newsom recall happened, I called. I was like, okay, if I'm going to vote now, I got to make sure my vote counts. So I called them and I gave them my address. And then she was like, oh, yeah, like your address is correct. She goes like, I don't know why you would have gotten that. So it's like what?
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of like got me to change my party too. And then
What about him? I mean, besides, you know, that experience that jumped out at you, was it just that experience, or as you went along, was there something else that you liked about him?
So everything started unfolding, right? Because then he was saying like about the election, and then I was like, yeah, I experienced it, so I know he's telling the truth. And then like as everything started going, and mine too, like as I was working with my relation with God, like I started getting more like conservative. And then I was like, okay, like his policies makes more sense to me, like, you know, compared to like what happened with Biden, and then like the whole, like I said, like the COVID thing happened, and then they were mandating things like, you know, Newsom is a Democrat and he's running California, and you couldn't go like to a Dodger game, you couldn't go to certain gyms, you had to show like a paper showing that you got something, and then I'm just like, this is not freedom, like this is not, I'm not with this party.
Yeah.
So.
I love what you said there. You said that your experience made you know that Trump was not lying, that he was right. And I think that's one way that our generation can tell a liar. We like base it on our experiences, our testimony, and then we like see if it aligns with what they're saying. Like we're very authentic, and I think we appreciate authenticity. So it's like, are you being real? Are you being real? And I totally relate to that. And I think that's huge. Like, yeah, it's personal experiences are definitely like leading. Well, they always have, right? Mm-hmm. But what's your perspective on that?
So I don't think it's so much about being red versus blue, but I think the way the country is going these days, it's more anti-establishment versus establishment.
Which one is the establishment?
Well, I'll get to that. The way things are going, right? I mean, if you look at the way the last 4 years have went, who was defending the COVID lockdowns, who was defending the mainstream media, who we obviously know is corrupt, who is defending the military-industrial complex, I think the old quote of "I didn't leave the Democratic Party, but the Democratic Party left me," I think that holds more true than it ever has in 2024, 2025. Because I'll say this, right? Asian Americans, and I speak as one, Asian Americans are, I wouldn't say they're Republicans, but they're definitely not Democrats, right? They're pro-public safety, they're pro-family values. A lot of them have small businesses, things like that. And if you have a party that is going to push people like Gavin Newsom, who did not clean up homelessness until it became a problem for him, if you push someone like George Gascon, who's going to let businesses get attacked, let elderly Asian people get attacked in the streets of Los Angeles, not defend businesses, not prosecute retail theft, things like that, I think it becomes very obvious that the establishment has failed, right? There's been one-party rule in this state for 30 years, and I think that very much is, I think a lot of people have kind of woken up to the fact that that they've failed in a lot of ways. I think Asian American people realize this, Latino people realize this. A lot of California people have realized that, the status quo just isn't working. And I would say that's why I am the way I am.
Yeah. One thing that I just wanted to know your opinion on was, a lot of people would say, because you said your own experience proves that Trump is in fact telling the truth, but if you look at the court system has deemed him as a liar. So how do you go about justifying that, or justifying the fact that you believe that he is telling the truth?
I mean, we can't always agree on everything, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not like it's not in my control what the court does, right. But what's important for me is what I believe in and what I stand for, and, not letting go of my values. Yeah. So standing firm in my values. So if they don't want to believe him, that's on them. But, as long as I believe him, and, I'm not saying no one's perfect, obviously. But like my experience. So it's like she said too, the truth, like your own truth. So that's my truth. So.
Absolutely. And to say the courts thing, would you say that the courts, does Gen Z view it as like establishment or anti-establishment, or like what can you break apart?
What specifically about the courts?
Well, like that Trump case, like.
I think that very much depends. There are some things where, it depends where you fall along the political aisle, but I think there is sort of this populist undercurrent which has taken Gen Z from the left and from the right, which is, Gen Z is there. Even though it's been heavily polarized, there's a lot of things that both sides can agree on, right? Both sides, whether you're left or right, are anti-war. The right is becoming increasingly anti-corporate, especially when you have Bobby Kennedy coming into HHS with Big Pharma and things like that. I think there's a strong aversion to a lot of the politics that the boomers have brought into this country, right? They crashed the economy in 2008. They got us into the Iraq War, things like that. And I think those are probably the bigger things I would talk about when it comes to being establishment versus anti-establishment. I think the word populist has really gotten a bad term because it's sort of like this demonized term when you go to political science classes and things like that. But if you look at the politics of Gen Z, whether you're left or right, I think you can make the case that both sides are more populist than they've ever been in American politics because the establishment has failed so spectacularly, whether it be George Bush or Bill Clinton or, whichever presidents you want to point to.
So you're arguing that today that most people are populist?
Whether they know it or not, or they claim to be or not, I would argue that a lot of people have very populist undercurrents to them. They might not put that label on it because I think that label is pretty much
What are some of the things that you're seeing right now that proves that, or that you've seen?
Well, I think 2016 is a very good example to point to because you have the rise of Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, right? Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump essentially they're attacking the same enemy, which is the establishment, right? Even though they may differ significantly in terms of their philosophies on how to do that, right? Bernie Sanders is tax the rich. Donald Trump is come in, wipe out the globalists, and bring America back to being the prime position in the world. And whatever your opinions on that, I think at the end of the day, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump have both pointed their guns at the establishment. Bernie Sanders points it at the Wall Street corporations. Donald Trump points it at the lobbyists and all the politicians in Washington, which have screwed up the country so terribly. Both sides have this sort of populist anti-establishment undercurrent, which is why even though, Bernie and Trump are so old, Trump is like 78, Bernie Sanders is what, 80 now? How old is he?
Yeah, he's
getting up there too. Even though these people
only a few years apart.
Even though these people are so old and they're so old, both of these people have kind of become Gen Z icons because they've been able to embody this sort of populist aesthetic, right? Trump when it comes to him, what he says and things like that. I don't think it's so much more about what Trump has said when it comes to, did he get all his facts right? Did he cross his T's and dots his I's? I think it's more the aesthetic that he embodies, and that's why he's so appealing to people, because you have someone in there that isn't. Trump is simultaneously the guy who isn't afraid to say the emperor has no clothes when something isn't working, and he's the one to come in and sort of cast this vision, right? I would argue that Trump, whether you agree with his policies or not, mass deportations, tariffs, anything else that he had planned in 2024, at least Trump went in there with a vision to radically change the country. And at the end of the day, whoever's going to radically change the country, I think, is going to be the winner of the election, right? Kamala Harris, she can talk all of this about being unburdened by what has been, by what has been, or whatever her slogan was. But in reality, if you look at her, she's the same neoliberal candidate that the Democratic Party has run since Bill Clinton. Her politics are not that different from Bill Clinton or Barack Obama. She had one keystone winning issue, which was the abortion issue, and everything else downstream was either a Trump-Vance derivative or something of the sort that wasn't really marketed that well. And I think the fact that, we live in, I would argue that we live in a pro-choice country, right? The majority of people in this country, even if it's like 5%, 3%, the majority of the people are pro-choice. I don't think Kamala Harris was offering something different enough to be enticing to the American people. I think it was, and she was put in a very tough position, right? You lose Biden's base if you move too far to the left, or, if you try to moderate out. She was put in a tough position, but it's the fact that she didn't offer anything different. That's why she lost so spectacularly, because Trump was able to come in and say, look, this is my vision. I'm not afraid to say it. This is what I want to do for the country. Vote for me if you agree. And people said, well, what you're offering is better than what's on the table currently. So I may hate myself for doing it, but I think I'm going to vote for you. And I think that's why Trump won.
Yeah. Now, I have another question before going over to more of like what's going on locally here in California. So I just wanted to know, what are some of the things that you would like to see the Republican Party change, and what are some of the pitfalls in your perspective?
So I guess I'll start. When I was at UC Santa Barbara, we ran into a congressional candidate. I won't say his name because I'm going to criticize him. But so we ran into a congressional candidate, and I gave this story about my perspective from my family and my grandparents. So he was talking, and Santa Barbara is a very liberal district, right? But he made the case that you have a lot of conservative Democrats who don't agree with, all the transgender stuff that's going on. People who, might just be Democrats because that's what they've always been, even though they are very socially conservative. And I made the case that, my grandparents were very socially conservative. They voted Republican only twice in their entire lives, right? Voted for John Kennedy, voted against Ronald Reagan, voted against George Bush, all the way down the line. And despite being so socially conservative, and the reason they voted that way wasn't because of cultural policy, it was because of economic policy. Because when Reagan came in, they saw the Republican Party as the party of the rich, right? Oh, here's just this rich actor who's going to give a bunch of tax cuts to
his friends,
to all of his friends.
Yes.
And, like, there's this, especially amongst I would say the Asian American community. This has been a similar experience with all of my friends' parents when I've talked politics with them.
And Hispanics too.
Hispanics as well. There's this aversion to country club republicanism, right? This image of like the gray hair white guy in like a golf tee that's going golfing. It's like, oh, they think this is your average Republican voter. And I think that narrative sort of has to change. I think Trump has opened the door for that with the embrace of the unions, which, voted left and Democrats since Franklin Roosevelt. I think Trump has really changed that. J.D. Vance is someone who's going to change that. I think the Republican Party has to lean. There's a lot of talk right now of, there's always been, I'm fiscally conservative, socially liberal. I don't think that's the selling point anymore, because tax cuts and Reagan and all that was 40 years ago. That worked great for Reagan then. He won spectacularly in 1984. But if the Republicans want to get serious about winning in this state, don't run the same messaging from 40 years ago. You need something new. You need something different. You need something with a vision. And I think Trump really proved that, where, for better or for worse, whether you hate him or you're not, Trump came in with a vision and he came in with something different. And I agree. If he gets his way on everything, he is going to radically alter the course of the country, whether it's for better or for worse. I don't think we'll know for another 50 years, for absolute certain at least. But the Republicans need a guy with a vision. They need someone who will come in with fresh blood, with fresh ideas. And I think that's why people like Trump and RFK have been so refreshing for the Republican Party.
What are some fresh ideas that Gen Z can adopt from the Republican Party, like the new one?
Well, I think RFK Jr. has been great for the GOP with MAHA and everything like that. Because, whether you agree with what he says about vaccines or not, Kennedy came in with a very radically different perspective on health. In 2020, you were kind of talking about this with COVID and the lockdowns and everything that was happening, right? Trump was pro-lockdown. Trump ordered the country to be shut down. Biden continued the lockdown. He mandated vaccines. RFK was the only one on the left or the right, or at least the most prominent voice, who was saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't lock down the country. This is seriously going to stunt the growth of our kids. Like, when Gen Z and Gen Alpha start getting into politics, they need to start talking about their experience with the lockdowns, because you have people who, maybe not my age, because I was 16 when all of that happened, but you have people who are, 2, 3, 4 years younger than me, who their growth was seriously stunted. They didn't get to see their friends for 2 years. You have emotional trauma from all of that. And, all the vaccines and the inoculations and everything like that. Like, I think I really like the direction that Bobby Kennedy has pushed the Republican Party, because it's something very fresh. It's something very different. And I think Kennedy is addressing something which the GOP has failed to address for a long time, which is corporate capture, right?
Yes.
Corporate capture isn't a left or right issue. It's an issue that more Americans are becoming conscious of, right? The right, especially the more isolationist Trump right, has become much more critical of the military-industrial complex. This is like a left-wing issue from the 1960s, or the holistic living. It's like, this is something the hippies used to talk about, right? And then all the hippies like Neil Young are now saying, oh, well, get RFK off the air. It's like, this is the same guy you guys propped up. Like, you guys would have praised this guy 50 years ago. RFK Jr. was almost Barack Obama's director of the EPA, right? Everyone forgets this, where it's like, I think there's a lot of cross issues which you can push right now, such as health. I think nuclear energy is a big one, because the GOP doesn't really have an answer to a lot of the energy policy that the Democrats have pushed forward, right? If the GOP would just come out and say, hey, here's a bill to make nuclear clean, safe, and efficient, it would be the cleanest source of energy, and we could avoid all these blackouts and burnouts and brownouts we have in California. And I think that would be appealing to a lot of people.
Yeah. You talked about MAHA, which is taking care of our body.
Yeah.
But I'll take it even a step further and say life is good. I think that's a radical idea that Gen Z and Gen Alpha are absolutely craving. Life is good. I think that we're never going to argue with abortion. We're never going to argue with the pro-choice movement successfully. But what we can do is make it seem extremely foolish to kill off your bloodline because of underpopulation, because of these problems that J.D. Vance is bringing to the table, this thing of pro-family, pro-traditional marriages, pro-traditional parenting styles, and, being a more, bigger sense, what's the word, existential sense of pro-life.
No,
you literally
it's definitely an existential thing. It's an existential thing, and I would take it a step further and go, it's a spiritual thing. I don't know how much you guys have read philosophy, and have you guys read Friedrich Nietzsche at all, or not really? So Nietzsche is he's at the tail end of the scientific revolution, and he has this famous quote that atheists love. It's God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? Who shall wipe this blood off our knives? And the atheists like to talk about it and say, oh, well, how bold is Nietzsche for declaring God is dead? Nietzsche isn't saying, oh, haha, I killed God. He's saying, holy shit, I killed God. What are we, we as a society have advanced so far scientifically that there is no longer a need for God. This Christian God, which has reigned over Western society for the last 1,000, 2,000 years, we no longer know him. He's no longer here with us. Our society no longer accepts him.
And our society has become cancer.
Well, I think it's sort of an existential crisis with that, because Nietzsche spends his entire philosophical life talking about, how do you create purpose when you've killed off the old purpose? How do you create purpose when you've killed off the old God? That's why he says, what festivals of atonement shall we have to invent? How shall we comfort ourselves? And I think Nietzsche, even though he spent decades of his life trying to answer this question, I think it's more clear than ever that Gen Z is reckoning with the death of God right now. Our society is reckoning with the death of God, not just from a moral perspective, but from an existential perspective and from a sense of purpose, right? And I think that's why you see such a religious revival. You see people going to the gym, right? Gen Z has sort of gone, again, this goes back to the divide in our generation, where half the generation has fallen into nihilism and depression, and the other half of the generation has turned towards self-improvement, towards God, towards religion, towards, exercise, health, things like that. Because when a society becomes so secular that, you do kill God, I think people either fall into complete despair and say life is completely meaningless, or they try to fill it with some sort of purpose, whether that be a return to the original God or, the gym or some other goal that they've crafted out for their lives. I definitely think it's an existential thing as to why we have mental health issues, why we have all these sorts of things. We are witnessing the death of God, as Nietzsche would have coined it.
It's an interesting point.
No.
Yeah, and Christine, why don't you tell us, what do you think that the Republican Party is currently lacking?
Number one, I would say to stop being in the sidelines. You can fact check me on this, but from what I heard, LA County actually has the largest registered Republicans. I'm not sure if it's in the young adults, 18 to 40, or if it's just in general, but we do. And I think in the nation, because LA County is pretty big, but where are they? We know you're registered, but where are you? A lot of them don't vote. They're registered, but they don't vote, no matter what their excuse is. A lot of them aren't involved in the events. They don't show up, but all they do is complain that things aren't going, the way they want to. Or we've been seeing a lot of people get more involved in school board stuff. So because now it's affecting their lives, they're okay, I need to be involved. So you see a lot of that. So I get it. It sucks because a lot of people will put literally target you for being a Republican, but we're all serving a greater purpose. And I came across this quote where it was you have to find something greater than you. And I think for a lot of us, it is to fight for something that's so much bigger than us, because we believe in what's good. We want to fight for what's right. So I think we're at a time where we need to stop being on the sidelines. We need to get involved. We need to seek change, or else just everything's going to go downhill. We've already seen with California, when we just let them do whatever. He also mentioned earlier, with the homelessness, and now that they're actually pointing at Newsom, what's going on, where's the money, with the funding and all of that. So that's, I would say one thing is to stop being on the sidelines, and another thing is to work together, even with Democrats. And I think we need to find common ground. I don't know if you guys saw, but the Senate just passed, and Senate is, I think, majority Democrats.
Majority, you're talking
right?
about the California Senate?
U.S. Senate.
The Republicans control the trifecta.
Oh, it is?
The presidency,
okay.
House, and Senate.
But even there are Democrats in there, 100% voted on a no tax today. So it's good to see that there was no,
there was
no backlash. No one disagreed with it. And I think that's where we need to change, because I think at the end of the day, like, both parties, we have similar issues that we agree on. Like, like you said, nobody wants war, nobody wants crimes, nobody wants homelessness. So I think that just working together to solve that, I think that's where we need a lot of change, because a lot of people are kind of like they say, like, what is it, the old Republican?
Yeah.
So kind of like
the old guard of both the left and the right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you brought up an interesting point because specifically here in California, and I know what you're talking about, there's a lot of Republicans who don't do anything. And you're saying it's because, you know, obviously they don't do anything and then they complain. But do you think that perhaps the leadership isn't doing anything or doing enough to reactivate these people and say, we've got this, we can do it?
I don't think it's just leadership. I think, like, as you can see from my experience, like, no leaders, like, told me get involved. I just saw everything that was going on and I got involved myself. So, like, a lot of the issues, like, would be like, oh, my vote's not going to count. Like, I'm not going to vote. But then you have leaders that are telling you need to vote. Like, your vote counts. Your voice counts. Exercise that right. So I don't think it does matter. Leadership does matter. But at the end of the day, I think it's up to the individual to actually be like, yes, I want change. Yes, I'm going to do something about it, rather than just, you know, being on the sideline.
Well, I think I do think it's a leadership issue, because you have situations where you know, your Republican voters are going, oh, you know, my vote doesn't matter, my vote doesn't matter. It's up to the responsibility of the party leadership and the people at the top to communicate that, yes, you know, your vote does matter. I think it will be perhaps decades before California goes purple, if not red. But what needs to be communicated to all these Republicans, or, you know, anyone that doesn't vote because they go, oh, well, California is going to go Democrat for the next 30 years. Why do I care? What needs to be communicated is, okay, sure, you know, maybe you can't determine the presidency alone, but you can determine every single race that's down ballot of that, right? When I talk about local government, because, you know, I'm very involved in Torrance and LAOC, things like that. One of the things I talk about is, you know, Trump has signed, like 200 executive orders. How many of those have you actually felt? Sure, you know, you go to the grocery store, oh, apples are a little higher today, and it's imported from, you know, some country that makes apples. You feel the effects of the presidency. That is true, right? But what you feel the effects of way more is your local city council, your local school board, your local mayor, things like that. Like, I look at what George Chen has done in Torrance, and I'm so happy that I got the experience of door knocking for him my senior year of high school, because I see the businesses he's bringing. I see what he's doing to help the city. He's being proactive. He's going to like business conventions in Vegas, in New York, in Washington, D.C., doing all these things and being proactive for the city. And especially when the Del Amo Mall thing happened, the smash and grab, right? It was him that was calling in the police force and organizing and saying, here's what we're going to do in case this happens. Like, that difference is so huge, and you feel that change at the local level. And it's not like people are going to go, oh, well, you know, that's the mayor's. The mayor's race was determined by 3,000 votes. In South Torrance, there was a highly contested race in District 5 between Aurelio Matucci and Gene Adelsman. Aurelio Matucci won by 16 votes. It came down to 16 votes. So I'm sitting there, like, when I saw the numbers for the first time in 2022, I said, wow, that is 16 houses I could have knocked on and changed. Like, I personally could have swung an entire election race in my home city. And you dramatically see those changes far more than you do the presidency or, you know, who's Secretary of State, things like that. So anyone who says that, oh, local government doesn't matter, or you can't change anything, or your vote doesn't count, the complete opposite is true. You know, start at the bottom of the ballot. Start with school board, city council, mayor, and then work your way up, because the bottom ones the bottom races are the ones you're going to feel the most, right? You feel a tax increase when it's like Measure M in Los Angeles. You feel the difference when there's a different county supervisor or a different district attorney, for example. That one was huge, right? That the district attorney race was probably the most consequential race of the entire election for us here in LA. Far more than the presidency, I would say.
DA, yeah, that was a crazy one. How do you guys see Hochman right now? Is he looking hopeful? Somewhat.
Obviously, there are a lot of things I don't agree with his views and stuff, but I think he was the best option, like, we had for DA, we had him actually talk at one of our events at the LA County Young Republicans. And, you know, again, like, even though we're different parties, the passion he had to solve crime, like to actually put criminals away versus what Gascon, I couldn't even say his name, was doing. Yeah, and like what he has been doing so far, I think, you know, we voted for him for a reason, and he is going to help California.
Yeah,
well,
it's been interesting. Yeah.
George Gascon was terrible. Anyone is better than George Gascon. I could elect a hamster to the district attorney's office, and it'd still be better than George Gascon. 15,000 unprosecuted cases. Victims of police killings, police murders, which were let off. You had sexual assault victims where justice was not served. Gascon was one of the worst things to ever happen to this city. Yeah. And I think very much so you have the ramifications of the defund movement, of a lot of these cultural effects of BLM, which have come out of 2020 and things like that, which have still, like, their cultural ripples can still be felt within Los Angeles, within LAPD, within police departments across the country, because a lot of police departments are understaffed. You know, no one wants a job where you potentially could be blasted all over mainstream media and Twitter and things like that. Obviously, Derek Chauvin, should not have done what he did, and I think people had every right to be outraged after watching that video. But at the same time, you can't just defund the police, right? You need better training. You need to train the cops to treat people better, to handle situations correctly, things like that. And I think George Gascon is really, like, the fact that he was just letting people off left and right. I think that is the real consequence of the defund movement, as clear as we can see it.
George Floyd's video, that was an example of a video that broke through,
seen, yeah.
that everyone saw, that broke through the social media niches.
Mm-hmm.
You got it.
Yes. I knew there was one. Oh, that one was awful.
Yeah.
I came across it several times, and I just skipped it because I was like, nope, that's murder porn, no thanks. I was like,
2020 was such a different time with everything that was going on.
Oh, it felt like a fever dream.
Oh, yeah, for sure. COVID and the riots and everything like that. And it's like, and I made this case in 2020, it's like, if you think there is something systemically wrong with the police, then do it, like, resolve your problems peacefully. There's no reason to go around and burn down cities. And I think the fact that you saw the consequences of the riots in Minneapolis, in LA, in DC, wherever, I think that is what pushed me to be so pro public safety too. It's like, this is not the way to do things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Another race that's coming up that's very big for California is the governor's race. We have that. What are you guys, what are you looking for in a candidate for governor? And obviously, I think that's something that was very similar to Nathan Hochman, is the fact that there were so many people running for his seat. Not Nathan. Yeah, well, with Nathan Hochman and his other...
And George Gascon, yeah.
Yeah, and him, but there were so many different candidates. We had even a socialist who wanted... Basically, people from all sides, from the middle, from the right, from the left, were trying to go for that position because they all knew it just needed a new person to fill it. And I think that's happening with the governor's race as well. We're seeing so many people jumping in right now, left and right. But what do you guys think about it right now?
I haven't looked into the candidates too much. Yeah. I just know that Bianco threw his hat in, Steve Hilton threw his hat in. Yeah. Everyone knows Kamala Harris is probably going to throw her hat in.
Gross.
I definitely think that what we need in a candidate is we need somebody who actually believes in the California dream. California is probably the most beautiful state in the union. Maybe spare Hawaii. One exception. California is one of the most beautiful states in the union, right? The Bay Area is beautiful. Or it was beautiful. Los Angeles was beautiful. These are real, like, Los
staples.
Angeles. Staples of Americana, of American culture, right? You have all the movies that came out in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that are all based in LA. the music that came out of Los Angeles in the 1960s. There's so much American culture.
Fashion.
There's so much American culture and history here that came out of Los Angeles, out of San Francisco, out of all these places. And I think you need somebody who actually has love for those things, who loves Los Angeles for what it was. Like, you don't need a Republican that comes in that says, oh, well, California sucks. And, you need somebody who actually loves the state. And you don't need a Democrat who's going to come in and say, oh, yeah, well, we're just not going to clean up the streets, as you had with Gavin Newsom for the past 6 years. You need somebody who will come in and will actually love the state, who will solve the problems, not politically, but pragmatically, right? It's, oh, let's reopen the mental institutions. Let's get all the people who are addicted to drugs or, homeless or have some sort of mental illness. Let's get these people in the mental institutions. Let's clean up the streets. Let's approach crime pragmatically. I think with Prop 47 and Gascon and everything, you can make the case very well that criminal justice reform failed, right? Prop 47 was a terrible disaster and cost businesses thousands of dollars, if not billions of dollars across the state if you're totaling everything up. So I think I would like somebody who believes in the California dream again, right? Who can listen to like Surfing USA and see, I see the vision of what this state actually used to be. Because I don't think there's lots of issues facing the state, but California has been one of the most successful and wealthy states of the entire union, before. I don't see why they can't do it again.
Yeah. Gavin Newsom treats California like his own personal junkyard. I mean, and there's so many people hopping on the bandwagon of improving California in the opposite direction of what Gavin Newsom has brought it. Like, we had Adam Scott and that other guy, Rob Lowe, discussing how California, like, nobody wants to shoot anything in California anymore because there's no like tax breaks. So that's why they're leaving so much. But Hollywood and the movie industry and all that stuff was bringing in a lot of money and just the wealth into California.
The revenue is going down the drain right now.
Yeah,
because California, there's some business regulations that are necessary. I don't want to walk outside and smell smog every single day, but at the same time, it's what's kind of gone on in Torrance with what the mayor's done and everything like that is he's created a very pro-business environment. He's made businesses feel welcome, and if you compare that to the previous mayor, Toyota headquarters in America used to be in Torrance, right? It employed a good portion of our city, and it was a huge source of revenue. The previous mayor I don't know what he did or what happened, but it was a combination of what he was doing, or maybe lack of what he was doing, and the combination of tax policy and all the business regulations in California. Toyota left and went to Texas, is what happened. And now you have George, who is making all these business deals and talking to all these businesses and things like that. We have a new car company that's starting up in Torrance. It's a Sony Honda offshoot called Afila. So it's like you have to create that sort of business-friendly environment. It's more than just policy, right? It's about creating those connections and making sure businesses feel welcome. That's how you're going to fix the state.
Yes, exactly. We need to turn it around.
Someone who's going to revive California. So I wasn't originally born here. I'm from Lebanon, so from the Middle East, and I've been here for 18 years, and I've never seen California like this. It used to be like so much better. So one, I believe in action over words. Like, anybody can go on TV or podcast, whatever, and be like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So for me, it's action over words. And like, so if I've like seen someone do something good somewhere, I'm going to, go for them. Like Chad Bianco, I used to live in Riverside for a little bit, and even today, like when I go, I feel a little safer there than in my own city, being in LA County. And everyone knows, like, I think it still is, like, cost of living is a little bit cheaper in Riverside County than LA County. And for me, like, I think the important issue is how they're going to solve that, like with homelessness. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen, like, even I think like Sherman Oaks area, but like mainly downtown LA, like it is looking like a junkyard. Like there's just so much stuff on the streets and so many homelessness. Like for me, it's looking like back home. And I was there last year. I'm like, I can't wait to go to California. But then like I come home like now here too. But yeah, like homelessness, the crimes, like if you go to your favorite stores now, the items are locked up. You have to call an associate, like someone to come and give you this. Come on. Like that is not, I want to live freely. I think a lot of people want to do that. And I think like the new bills that did pass where now they're going to actually go after criminals again.
Yeah.
So like things like that, that's what matters for me. And the cost of living, obviously, and all those really important items. So
Yeah.
True, yeah.
Something we were talking about out there was there's this new thing. Well, it's not a new thing, but a recent case that just happened. I'm pretty sure everybody's heard of it, but it's the bombing at the fertility center. And that was an IVF clinic, but it was very interesting because the man himself was saying that he wanted to basically sterilize the planet and rid it of the disease of life, basically. Which I think also, he's probably somebody who has mental illness, but I think that raises the fact that we do need that mental illness help. And yeah, I just think it's such an interesting thing to be seeing today, the fact that happened. But yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really, really heartbreaking, and it is 100% mental illness, I think. And, you know, for me too, I think it's also like spiritual, a lot of spiritual warfare. And I think, you know, you don't have to believe the same God or whatever, but like just having that higher power, like believing in a higher power, having hope. And like we've been, at least I have been seeing, like, you know, we're talking more about mental health now. Like I was at the Dodgers Stadium, they have a whole mental health day, but yes, we can talk about it, but you know, we really do need help. So, you know, people do need to seek help. And I think with the lockdowns too, I think there has been a lot of research done where isolation wasn't good for anyone's mental health. So again, leadership. It's all on leadership because they locked everyone down. So it just, and anyone that condemns violence over a disagreement or something they don't believe in, like it's a mental health thing. And again, like it's really sad what's going on because he's not the only one. We have been seeing a lot of violence, like even with the riots and everything, and violence is really not going to solve anything. So get the help you need, please. And, you know, you may think you're alone, but you're not. So just be positive and, you know, again, like seek help. And yeah.
I think it so goes back to what Dylan was saying about how they got rid of God, they killed God. Mm-hmm. And that's just more of the same, you know? Wouldn't you agree? I mean, what's your perspective on this thing that happened in Palm Springs?
It's very much... I mean, I haven't actually read too much about it. I haven't looked into it too much. But, I mean, if you hate life, if you hate all these things, I very much think, well, one, it's a mental health thing, and two, it very much is like an existential spiritual thing, right? I definitely think that, because in the 1950s, you know, murder was unheard of on the news. If you heard of a murder, it was shocking. And then now you turn on the news, you hear about one every other day. I think that the way American society has gone in the last 70 years is there's no more respect around life, around people, things like that. And I very much do think that is tied in to how we approach life existentially and spiritually.
Well, there was always murder, right?
No, there always was, but it's become far more commonplace than it was in the 1950s.
Well, in the 1950s too, I think it's important to consider, like, and maybe this is your point, but that, you know, the newscasters were only picking up a murder case every so often, probably because they didn't want to bum out their audience and scare their suburban audience.
But I think that ties into how corporate media has really functioned. They've really functioned off fear in the last 20, 30 years, I would say.
Because they're desperate. They're desperate.
The saying is, if it bleeds, it leads, right? Where they'll hype up sensation. I definitely think this is also a reason why Trump was so sensationalized, or, you know, everything that goes on is sensationalized, where you have something. The news isn't so much looking to communicate the news as it was in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, where, you know, you turn on, like, the 5 p.m. news and it's boring, right? Oh, here's what happened today. And now it's, this happened, this happened, this happened. Like they are feeding us a lot of content that is meant to make us feel emotion. That's meant to make us feel a certain way because that's what keeps you locked in. That's what keeps you watching. They've realized that they've been able to make profit off of murder, off of theft, off of a lot of these things that are going on. And I think it's a real tragedy because I do think that has desensitized us to a lot of the stuff that's going on when it comes to murder, when it comes to crime, things like that. I mean, people just don't care anymore, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why a lot of people aren't turning, like you said earlier, not tuning into the news as much anymore either.
Oh, that's because I don't trust them.
Okay.
You know what? I think that this also shows the fact that if he is somebody with mental illness, which I'm pretty sure he was, there must have been something to have sparked this in. I'm pretty sure he was probably brainwashed into thinking this.
He hates life.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like that's like such an easy default when you're dealing with when someone is dealing with anxiety, depression, and they're self-medicating, or they're going to big pharma and getting Xanax, or they're going on their phone and just doom scrolling.
Well, I think that
they're gonna eventually realize that like termination is the answer for themselves and others.
Well,
but that's why they need to turn around and seek God.
right, and I think that today's society is what is pushing people towards that, though.
Ultimate termination.
Yeah.
But I think it's a much.
yeah.
I think it's a much more holistic approach, and that's why I like a lot of the conversations that are being had now with Bobby Kennedy and all the people which have surrounded him, because it's not so much oh, you go to the doctor and say, oh, I'm depressed. Oh, okay, here's antidepressants. Antidepressants will screw you up, right?
Yep.
It'll screw up your hormones. It'll screw up your mental state. It'll screw up all these things. And
our real food is medicine. I mean, our real medicine is food.
It's food. It's exercise. It's going out. And I just hate the conversation that all these people have around mental health. To me, it's all virtue signaling, right? You go to the school counselor and it's, do this. Or
well, maybe
do
you're
that.
gay.
Or it's like,
yeah, no, basically, right?
It's like, oh, do this, do that. And it's like these simple fixes, like, in schools, in high schools, they'll have like a mental health day. It's like, how is this supposed to help anyone that's actually struggling? We need to have a holistic approach to our mental and physical well-being and realize that everything is intertwined, right? If you're depressed about something, start simple. Go out for a walk for 30 minutes every single day. Get some exercise, get some sunlight. Realize that your exposure to sunlight is related to your mental health.
Yeah.
Don't be cooped up every single day. Start writing in a journal. Start dissecting all of your thoughts. Mental health is not something that, you slap a pill on or you slap a day on. It's a long process of growth. And that's what is really not being taught to these kids. It's not so much, oh, here's a mental health day, or, oh, block out everything that bothers you. I don't like the phrase, oh, I'm focusing on myself right now. It's like, yes, you should prioritize yourself. You should love yourself. You should take care of all those things. But at the same time, the way you're going to overcome depression, mental illness, it's going to be a long, continuous struggle over years, right? You have to work towards these things. You have to take care of your body. You have to do this. You have to do that, right? We need an understanding of mental health in this country that is holistic, that focuses on all aspects, and for everybody, it's going to be different. It's not one pill fits all when it comes to mental health. It's not going to be just, oh, here's some antidepressants. You need to talk to these kids, and you need to be able to meet them where they're at. And that's the real way you're going to solve the mental health crisis. And I think students have, or at least schools have, tried to take it and sort of corporatized it. And I think a lot of people in Gen Z recognize how artificial that is. This isn't the way we're going to deal with mental health.
Yeah, and a lot of them just scam the system. They go and get prescribed Adderall, and then they sell it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many ways to just exploit the system and how broken it is.
Sorry.
I don't know if you heard too, like there was this country that like came out with this whole machine where you can go in and like end your life. I don't know if you guys have heard about that.
Is that not Canada?
I saw that on Futurama one time.
Yeah, but it's like if we're really like, they're like literally pushing people to do that.
Oh my goodness.
Like
self-termination. Because that's the ultimate thing is like, wait, life sucks. Just end the life. But, I believe then you're bringing on a whole thing of eternal doom.
Yeah, well, you know what? There's something that I always try to tell people is, and this applies to, I think, a lot of areas in life, is that good the good things are a struggle and they're a challenge, but they're always rewarding in the end. Yeah, I think something that's good is has a challenge to it, because you're able to feel that reward when you come out at the other end.
But also it really just has to do with like leaving the matrix too, because I feel like if you know people in your life who are like 60, 70, 80 years old, go to them if you're depressed and ask them for advice. Ask them what to do. And like most of the time, they are going to give you good advice because they've survived this long on this earth, And that's the thing. I feel like a lot of us, there's just that disconnection. But I feel like looking to our elders and seeking wisdom is the best way to handle depression or anxiety or whatever you're dealing with if you're lost, because go to the people who have survived this long. And the matrix right now, I feel like, is so much of, no, I have to, it's the whole thing with relationships. I have to date a 10. I can't like settle for anything less than a 10. And you have both males and females having that attitude, so then nobody gets anybody, and it's like that's destroying us. And then you have this thing of like, okay, no, I can't hang out with older people. I have to be in the now. I have to, basically like be cool. I have to be liked. I have to be, I have to prove to my peers that I'm successful, that I'm doing things, that I'm this and I'm that. And it's like, no, dude, go to an old folks home and spend the day there, and you will be happier than you were if you like spent flexing on your friends all day, Anyway, I'm getting tired, you guys. We're coming up at the hour.
They will most likely tell you to get off your phone too.
Yeah, they'll be like, "What the heck is that? Why are you looking at that box for so long? Are you like, do you need help?"
But, I mean, they are right? I mean, the phone, as dumb as it sounds, the phone is probably a big part of it, because modern consumer culture has sort of sold this instant gratification. Oh, here's, look at this TikTok. Keep scrolling. As you said, oh, I need to date a 10. I need to do this. I think young people need to be, because the reason mental health is also at an all-time high is because we've totally been sucked into this consumer culture, right? Oh, I need to go, I need to feel good, so I need to go clubbing. I need to go drink. I need to go do drugs. I need this, I need that. I need instant gratification at my fingertips.
I need to go take hot selfies with my friends.
But it's like, I think what has to be taught to a lot of people is the fact that life is not always meant to feel good, but that's what's beautiful about life, right? To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, as the Bible says, right? There's going to be good times and bad times in life, but that contrast is what makes life beautiful. That's what has to be taught to young people, that, hey, it's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be instant gratification. It's not always going to feel good, right? Like you going to the club and drinking with your friends, that might feel good in the short run, but the things that are actually meaningful in this world, they take work, they take dedication, they take patience, right? Patience is a virtue that I think our society has really lost. And I think it's not like, there's so many things wrong with society, whether you approach it from a Christian perspective or you approach it from a more, a different philosophy. There's a lot of things wrong with our society that have to be changed. And the first thing is just the mindset that we throw kids into.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about the consumerism, the constant scrolling, or then we stop scrolling, we jump on Amazon. It's so funny, like back in the day, like when I first had an iPhone, I was 14, and I had an Instagram, and I would post on Instagram, but I only followed my friends, so that got boring pretty quickly. And that was pretty much it. I mean, I didn't have a lot of messages, and like that was the sole purpose of my phone. And now it's like everything. Like now it's like you could spend 5 hours straight on your phone doing a bunch of different things, or your Apple Watch or whatever. And you go for messages. You might be working on, the shopping on there. You might order some DoorDash on there, hop over to Instagram while you're waiting for the DoorDash, and then hop over to, Facebook after you checked, or TikTok or whatever.
It's constant stimulation.
And then
maybe
you'll produce some.
It's constant stimulation is the problem.
They're trying to have every need packed into this thing.
You're feeling overwhelmed. I think the majority of people feel overwhelmed.
Exactly.
I think we were much happier as a civilization and as a society when it was, the only way you could go talk to your girlfriend is you would go and you bike down the street 2 miles.
Yeah.
Everyone was happier that way.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that, things, definitely a lot less mentally ill people. But we're getting the wrap-up sign from the... Wait, hang on one second. But he's like stretching. No, but it's funny, too, because I feel like a lot of young people are quick to judge the consumerism and say, well, that's capitalism destroying us. But it's like, no, because capitalism is you plant and you reap. And if you're not planting, how will you ever be fulfilled? It's like a misrepresentation of capitalism. It's like, no, you're only consuming, though. That's like, what is that? It's basically almost like communism, right? I mean, a little bit, I don't know, just consumerism. I don't know, maybe not communism, maybe that was incorrect, but you know what I mean, though, right? They're not participating in capitalism. I think materialism is probably the better word for it. It's not, like, obviously capitalism. But they're not giving back, because in capitalism, you have to give back. You have to go out and you have to plant for like a significant amount of time.
But you also have to give back in a way that's, the way you build a successful society is you have to give people purpose, right? People have to give back in a meaningful way. The most depressed person in the world is someone who's sitting on his couch that goes, oh, I don't have to work, right? That is because you need a purpose in this life. You need something to do. You need, like, there's a very famous example is the Emperor of Japan, right? Hirohito during the Second World War, where Hirohito, he was the Emperor of Japan, got all the food he needed, every single need met, housing, shelter, clothing, everything like that. And for some reason, he picked up an interest in marine biology. And it's like, what is the Emperor of Japan doing, looking into marine biology? But I think that example shows that people inherently have some sort of biological need. They need a purpose. They need an interest. They need to fill their time with something that makes them feel fulfilled, right? And whether that purpose is God or marine biology or the gym or whatever it is, I think the fact that we are such a material society now and, the way the economy functions, a lot of people feel unfulfilled with in the economy, which is why I think you have so many people turning against capitalism. Because yes, we do live in a capitalist society, right? A lot of people feel unfulfilled by that capitalist society because a lot of people are going, I don't want to work for 40 years and never, I don't want to work full time for 40 years and never own a home. I don't want to work and just, have someone else be my boss and contribute to a corporation that I don't really believe in. I don't believe in what's being made, especially if I can't make the thing, if I can't have a good life.
Yeah.
You have a lot of Gen Z that's saying right now, I don't think I'll ever be able to own a home unless I move to the middle of nowhere, right? Yeah. I very much think the purpose of the American dream is dead, or at least it's dying in full, and that's why you're seeing all this nihilism towards capitalism, towards America, towards the system, because you have a lot of people going, or at least the American dream is dead to them, which is why you're seeing record levels of unpatriotic sentiment in this country.
So true. Yeah. And they haven't been alive long enough to see it prosper.
To witness the high point of Americana.
It's been like the post-2008 generation. All right. Thank you so much. Sorry. Okay. All right.
You have me all night.
I'm taking back my thank you.
No. I always do this. I'm sorry, but it's just a quick one. Actually, two quick questions. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
First off, what are your guys' favorite books? Okay. Or give me one. Give me one of your favorite books, and what's one thing, and it could be any piece of advice you have. It could literally be anything, seriously, but just a piece of advice that you'd like to
share with your generation, right?
Yeah, share with our audience. Yeah, Chrissy.
I have so many favorite books, but I guess one of them, since we were on a mental health topic, The Power of Now. I think that was a really good book of like being present. So that's one of my favorite books. And then one of the advice is. So much I could say. Don't give up, I guess, no matter, whatever area of your life it is, no matter what challenges you face. And it can be political, it can be your health, it can be, like I said, any part of your life. Don't give up. The challenges are only going to teach you a lesson and it's just going to better you. So just keep going.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And Dylan?
Favorite book? Let's go Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Great philosophy book.
Okay.
Love Roman history. And then advice that I would have is, I would say, when I started my nonprofit, I really didn't know what I was doing. I just went in, I jumped into the deep end saying, this is how I feel about this issue. This is what I'm going to do. I would say if you have an idea, don't wait for the right time. Don't hesitate. General George Patton famously said that a violently executed plan is better. A violently executed plan now is better than a perfectly executed plan 2 years from now. And I would say if you have a dream or you feel a certain way about something, don't wait. Go for it, because the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely.
There you have it. Wonderful. Well, I've enjoyed talking to you both.
Yes.
Yeah, if you ever are interested in coming back on again, I would love to have you both talk about anything else that comes to mind. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining.
And where can we find
Yes,
you before you can just shout out your social medias or website or whatever you would like to.
Christine MOUM is my personal, and then LA County YR's is LAC_YR.
Wonderful.
My personal is just my name, Dylan Wakayama. Dylan with a Y, and then WAKAYAMA. And then my nonprofit page on Instagram is @SaveTorrance. And I should say that everything that I've said on this podcast is not going to be always representative of what we believe.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you both for coming on.
And thank you to our wonderful audience for tuning in. And we look forward to just your engagement. And feel free to share this with people. And
we're also going somewhere soon.
We're also going somewhere soon. Yes, I'm exhausted. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Would you like to announce it?
Sure. So we'd like to announce, I'm pretty sure if you've seen our Instagram, but we're going to YWLS. So in Texas with TPUSA. So we look forward to seeing you there if you are going. We are going to have a booth, so you can come check us out.
Yes, that's June 13th to June 16th, the Young Women's Leadership Summit with Turning Point USA. And if you want to learn more about us or follow us, you can go to 180shift.org.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. Thank you.